Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. Now, how epic is that? If they ever make that game, it's gonna be nuts, man. I don't care what system it's gonna be on. I'm gonna get it. It's gonna be crazy. And when they decide to do that, I think they will do that because, just to, finally do something epic and big. It's like Sonic making a game with Mario. It's just big. And I think eventually they will do that in order to keep the franchises and the names afloat. And of course, keep people interested. It's a money thing too, business, good business. So, let's get to it. Shoutouts to Hulkling93 for actually suggesting this, so, much props. Let's get to it right now. Let's start off with graphics. Okay, visually wise, Street Fighter is a bit brighter, it's a lot more cartoony. It's, that 2D feel, that, almost that anime feel. Later on in the series, it would become cel-shaded and really taking on that highly stylized art direction where it's got a lot of bright colors, a lot of it's more it's brighter. It's just a brighter game to look at. It stands out. The sprites look really big and they stand out in the game when you're playing as them. Each of the character designs look great. They all look unique and different. So Street Fighter is really great when it comes to making the designs of their games stand out, bright colors, blue, yellow, red, a lot of those colors where you just look at it and you go, wow, that's incredible. On the other hand, Mortal Kombat is darker, Mortal Kombat is just, it's grimy, it's dank, it's got this darker theme to the game where, and the level designs really reflect that theme. It feels almost like a Castlevania game where, you got a lot of purple and dark purple and brown and a lot of these dark colors, a bit more morbid, a bit more grimy, and it suits the game really well. It fits the game really well. Personally, I prefer the Street Fighter games because they are brighter, even though I really like the Mortal Kombat theme too. They really pull that off really well. Okay, let's look at sound and music. Production quality wise, it's kind of different for each game, once again, just like the graphics section where it's darker for Mortal Kombat. Well, the music is basically, in the same way. You have the darker, creepy, eerie kind of music in Mortal Kombat, a bit more, it's darker, it's a bit more foreboding, it's a bit more gothic, you know what I mean? A lot more ambience in the game's music and the quality of the music. Street Fighter, on the other hand, is a bit more upbeat. It's more. The level stages are there to reflect each level stage. So, for example, you got a stage in China, Chun-Li stage, where the music is this, this really tinkling kind of, Chinese chimes, these Chinese tunes, where it's like, ding 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 ding. You know what I mean? So, a lot of typical kind of music for each level. If you go to, Ken stage, which is set in America, it's got this really hard rock, a lot of metal, almost like a metal sound, kind of, guitar sounding, guitar riffs and, things like that. It's like, dun, 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 dun. And the music really gets you pumped and gets you going. That's what a fighting game is supposed to do. Get your blood pumping and get you excited to basically battle. I also got to talk about the intro music for Street Fighter. When that music comes in and you get to, this is epic. This is hype. That. And then you just go, wow, it really draws you in. It gets you feeling like, I want to play this game. Like I said, Mortal Kombat it's different because it's darker, it's a little bit slower, you know what I mean? The music is a bit more ambient, but it really fits the theme of the game really well. But just because it's a bit more upbeat in Street Fighter, I prefer Street Fighter music. It's a bit more iconic, it's a bit more recognizable as well. Which pair is better? Let's look at the pairs. Man, Ryu and Ken for Street Fighter, the two most famous figures in Street Fighter franchise, versus Scorpion and Sub-Zero, the two most popular duo in Mortal Kombat. As far as the male characters go, I always felt like it's kind of a tie for me because I really like Ken. I'm not a big fan of Ryu. I don't like Ryu that much. I play Ken every time I play Street Fighter 2. You know, he's my favorite character. On the other hand, in Mortal Kombat, I really like Scorpion. You know, he's great, man. He's like almost like this Grim Reaper. You know, he's a cool-ass, badass-looking ninja, and he's, you know, yellow and black, and he's very... There's something very sadistic in his eyes. You know, it's all like... It's white, you know, it's like... He's got no pupils or anything, man. It's just freaky character, you know, just awesome, just a badass. He's great. So I always play a Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. I'm not a big fan of Sub-Zero, but as far as the two duos, you know, I personally I think that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are a little bit more original as far as they're a bit more different from each other. Yeah, they look the same, but you know, the gameplay for each character is a bit more different. You know, Scorpion is more about strikes and getting your timing right, and, you know, being able to utilize his moves as far as you know, using the spear, you know, learning how to use the spear properly, using his teleport moves properly, and he's got a lot more strikes in his moves. On the other hand, you got Sub-Zero, who's more about like range, and he's more about you know, he'll freeze you, you know, that gimmick where you can freeze your opponent, you know what I mean, and get closer to them and then attack them that way. I guess you could say they're a bit similar in that sense, where they have to use range and proper timing, but I always felt that Sub-Zero was a little bit... You're a bit more defensive when you play as Sub-Zero. You're a bit more on the defense end of it, where in Scorpion you're more on the offensive side. Ken and Ryu, you know, they were so identical. They were almost identical in the beginning, you know what I mean? Just palette swaps, essentially. But I think that there was some differences between Ken and Ryu. Like, I think they said that, you know, Ken was a bit stronger, but he was slower, a little bit slower than Ryu. But yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed that. But I mean, they're so similar anyway, you know what I mean? Later in the series, you know, in later Street Fighter games, they were a bit more different, but in Street Fighter 2, they were really similar, you know what I mean? As opposed to Mortal Kombat and Sub-Zero, which had different gameplay. Alright, let's talk about the female fighters. You know, each game has a female fighter. You know, it's funny how in Street Fighter, you know, you had Chun-Li, the badass sort of Asian chick who's really, you know what I mean, she's this hot Asian babe, this sort of oriental look to her, you know what I mean? It's like this, almost this Asian fetish to Asian women, you know, made by, you know, the Japanese company Capcom. You know, they almost have this, like, you know, hot Asian, you know, hot Chinese girl kind of fetish almost, and Chun-Li is the product of that, and she kicks ass, you know. She'll always be sort of the, you know, the strong female figure in fighting games. But on the other hand, in Mortal Kombat, you got Sonya Blade, who's this, like, blonde bombshell. You know, it's funny how every fighting game now has, you know, a hot blonde as well, you know what I mean? They always have a hot blonde warrior in the game, so that's funny too. You know, Sonya's very popular. You know, Sonya Blade is a great character too. I don't play her that much, but I don't play as her that much, but you know, just because of her character design and you know, her influence, and, you know, the fact that she's like the only fighter in the Mortal Kombat series when it came out, it's really iconic. You know, she, as far as, you know, in American fighting games, you know, Sonya Blade is the first that comes to mind, and she's a pioneer, you know what I mean, along with Chun-Li. I personally prefer Chun-Li a little bit more just because I play her. I like her fighting style a little bit more. She's a little bit faster, she's got these kicks and everything like that, and of course her leg shots, you know, yes, very strong, muscular looking legs that are very sexy to look at. But, you know, Sonya Blade is a hottie too. I mean, Sonya Blade is a bombshell. You know, what can I say? You know, she's great, you know what I mean? It's, you know, it's funny how in later games, in Street Fighter, they had to make a blonde bombshell of their own, which is, you know, Cammy. You know, she's also this, you know, because Sonya Blade is like this military, soldier-esque blonde bombshell, so they made Cammy, who is the same way, you know, militant, very military, you know, the beret and everything, you know what I mean? And she's blonde, and you know, did they rip off each other? You know, you know, it's up for debate. But two great franchises. I personally prefer Street Fighter a little bit more, but I really love Mortal Kombat 2. I can't say the same for later Mortal Kombat games. I personally found them really hard. I mean, getting the combos down right. The controls just got a little bit outdated, you know what I mean? But Street Fighter always had smoother controls.